May 12th, 1899, Volume 2. Jesus makes her content, pouring sweetnesses and bitternesses from his side. This morning, continuing to make himself seen, afflicted, my adorable Jesus transported me outside of myself and showed me the various offenses he was receiving. I began to pray again that he would pour his bitternesses into me. At the beginning, Jesus did not pay attention to me, and he just told me, "My daughter, only then is charity perfect, when it is done for the sole purpose of pleasing me, and only then is it called true charity, and it is recognized by me, when it is stripped of everything." Taking the occasion from his very words, I said to him, "Jesus, my dear, it is precisely for this that I want you to pour your bitternesses into me, to be able to relieve you from so many pains. And if I pray you also to spare the creatures, it is because I remember well that on other occasions, after you had chastised the creatures, in seeing them suffer so much from poverty and other things, you too suffered very much. On the other hand, when I have been attentive, and I have prayed you and importuned you to the point of tiring you, so much so that you were pleased to pour it into me, sparing them, afterwards you have been very content about it. Don't you remember? Besides, are they not your images?" Seeing himself persuaded, Jesus told me, "Because of you it is necessary to make you content. Draw near me and drink from my side." So I did. I drew near him to drink from his side, but instead of bitterness, I suckled a most sweet blood, which inebriated all of me with love and with sweetness. Yes, I was content, but this was not my intention. So turning to him, I said, "My dear good, what are you doing? What comes out is not bitter, but sweet. Oh, please, I pray you, pour your own bitternesses into me." And Jesus, looking at me benignly, told me, "Keep drinking, for the bitter will come afterwards." So I attached myself to his side again, and after the sweet kept coming for a while, the bitter also came. But who can say the intensity of the bitterness? After I was satiated from drinking, I got up, and looking at his head, which had the crown of thorns, I removed it, and I drove it onto my head. Jesus seemed to be all compliant, while other times he had not permitted this. How beautiful it was to see Jesus after he had poured his bitternesses. He seemed almost disarmed, without strength, but all meek, like a humble little lamb, all compliant. I realized that it was very late, but since the confessor had come early in the morning to call me to obedience, it wasn't that I knew that I was to be called by obedience, for at the obedience Jesus leaves me free. So turning to him, I said, "Most sweet Jesus, do not allow that I cause trouble to my family and bother to the confessor by having him come again. Oh, please, I beg you, you yourself, let me return into myself." Jesus told me, "My daughter, today I do not want to leave you." And I too do not have the heart to leave you, but just for a little while, to let my family see that I am inside myself, and then we will return to be together. So after a long differing, saying goodbye to each other, he left me for a little while. It was precisely lunchtime, and my family was just coming to call me. But even though I felt I was inside myself, I felt all full of suffering. My head would not hold up. That bitter and that sweet, which I had drunk from the side of Jesus, gave me such satiety and suffering together that it was impossible for me to take anything else. The word I had given to Jesus kept me on tenterhooks. So with the pretext that my head was aching, I said to my family, "Let me be alone, for I don't want anything." So I was left free again, and immediately I began to call my sweet Jesus. And he, always benign, came back. But who can say what happened to me today? How many graces Jesus gave to my soul! How many things he made me understand! It is impossible to express it with words. Then, after staying for a long time, in order to calm my sufferings, Jesus poured sweet milk from his mouth, and then, around evening, he left me, giving me his word that he would come back soon. And so I found myself inside myself again, but a little bit more free of sufferings. May 12, 1905, Volume 6, The Means Not to Lose the Love of Jesus. As I was in my usual state, my blessed Jesus came for just a little, and on seeing him, I don't know why, I said to him, "Lord, still, this is something that lacerates my soul, the thought that I might lose your love." And he, "My daughter, who told you this? In all things, my paternal goodness has administered the means to help the creature, as long as these means would not be rejected. So the means not to lose my love is to hold my love, and everything that regards me as if it were one's own. Can one lose all that is his? Certainly not. At the most, if he has no esteem for something that is his own, he will not have the care to keep it in a safe place. But if he has no esteem for it, and does not keep it in a safe place, it is a sign that he does not love it, and therefore that object no longer contains the life of love, and cannot be numbered among his own things. But when one makes my love his own, he esteems it, he keeps it in a safe place, he always keeps an eye on it, in such a way that he cannot lose what is his, either in life or in death. May 12, 1908, Volume 8. With their bad example, the rich have poisoned the poor. Continuing in my usual state, I was praying to our Lord that he would concede to put peace in the hearts, which are all in discord. The poor want to attack the rich. There is such turmoil, a thirst for human blood. It seems that they themselves can no longer contain themselves. If the Lord does not put his hand in, we are already close to the chastisements which many times he has manifested. Then he came for just a little and told me, "My daughter, a just justice mine is. The rich have been the first to give a bad example to the poor, the first to move away from religion, from fulfilling their duties, to the point of feeling ashamed to enter a church, to attend Mass, to perform their obligation. The poor have nourished themselves with their poisonous slobber, and having fed themselves well with the poison of their bad example, with that same poison given by them, unable to contain it, they try to attack them and even to kill them. There is no order without subjection. The rich have subtracted themselves from God, and the peoples rebel against God, against the rich, and against everyone. The scale of my justice is full, and I can no longer contain it." May 12, 1917, Volume 12. One who doubts about the love of Jesus saddens him. Since my always lovable Jesus had not come, and I was very afflicted, a thought flew into my mind while I was praying. Have you ever thought that you might be lost? I never really think about this, so I remained a little surprised. But good Jesus, who watches me in everything, immediately moved in my interior and told me, My daughter, this is true strangeness, which saddens my love very much. If a daughter said to her father, I am not your daughter, so you will not give me a share of your inheritance. You don't want to give me food. You don't want to keep me in your house. And she torments herself and laments. What would the poor father say? Strangeness, this daughter is mad. And with all his love he would say to her, But tell me, if you are not my daughter, whose daughter are you? How is this? You live under my same roof. You eat at my same table. I clothe you with my money, earned with my own sweat. If you are ill, I assist you, and I procure the means to heal you. Why then do you doubt that you are my daughter? With more reason I would say to one who doubts about my love and fears that she might be lost, How is this? I give you my flesh for food. You live completely from my own. If you are ill, I heal you with the sacraments. If you are stained, I wash you with my blood. I can say that I am almost at your disposal. And you doubt? Do you want to sadden me? Tell me then, do you love someone else? Do you recognize someone else as your father, since you say that you are not my daughter? And if this is not the case, why do you want to afflict yourself and sadden me? Aren't the bitternesses that others give me enough? You too want to add pains in my heart? May 12th, 1922, Volume 14. One who lives in the divine will concurs in everything that God does. I was thinking to myself, who knows in what I have offended him, that my sweet Jesus does not come as usual? How can it ever be possible that without anything, the goodness of his most holy heart, which easily exceeds with those who love him, would resist so many calls of mine? Now, while I was thinking of this and other things, he came out from within my interior, and covering me completely with a mantle of most refulgent light, in such a way that I could see nothing but light, he told me, My daughter, what do you fear? See, in order to keep you safe and well defended, I surrounded you with this mantle of light, so that no creature and nothing may harm you. And then why do you want to waste time thinking that you have offended me? The poison of guilt does not enter into one who lives in my will. Besides, your Jesus would strike you lightning if he saw you with even the slightest stains of sin. I would put you out of the circle of my will, and you would immediately lose the attitude of operating in my will. Ah, my daughter, the sanctity in my will is not yet known. Each kind of sanctity has its own special distinction. Many are surprised in hearing that I come often to you, since I have not been used to doing it with other souls. The sanctity in my volition is inseparable from me, and in order to elevate the creature to the divine level, it is necessary for me to keep her either identified with my humanity or in the light of my divinity. Otherwise, how could the soul maintain the attitude of operating in my will if my working and hers were not one? Now the soul who lives in my will takes part in all of my attributes, and together with me she concurs in each one of my acts. Therefore she must concur with me also in the acts of justice. This is why when I want to chastise, I hide my humanity from you, which is more accessible to the human nature, in such a way that, at the reflections of my humanity, you feel the love and the compassion that I have toward souls, and you snatch from me the scourges with which I want to strike them. Then, when creatures do so much as to force me to strike them, hiding my humanity from you, I raise you into the light of my divinity, and as it absorbs you and delights you, you do not feel the reverberations of my humanity. and I, being left free, strike the creatures. Therefore either I manifest my humanity to you, making you concur together with me in the acts of mercy toward creatures, or I absorb you into the light of my divinity, making you concur in the acts of justice. But you are always with me, even more when I absorb you in the light of my divinity. It is a greater grace that I give you, while you, not seeing my humanity, lament that I deprive you of me and do not appreciate the grace you receive. On hearing that I was concurring in the acts of justice, frightened, I said, "So, my love, now that you are striking the creatures, making their homes collapse, am I doing this together with you? No, no, heaven forbid that I touch my brothers. When you want to strike them, I will make myself small in your will. I will not diffuse myself in it, so as not to take part in what you are doing. In everything I want to do what you do, but in this, striking creatures, never." And Jesus, why are you frightened? In my will you cannot be exempt from doing what I do. It is a natural thing. And this is exactly the sanctity in my will, to do nothing from one's own, but to do whatever God does. And then my justice is sanctity and love, and it serves to balance the divine rights. If I did not have justice, all the fullness of perfection would be lacking to my divinity. So if you want to live in my volition, and do not want to take part in the acts of justice, the sanctity done in my will would not have its full completion. They are two waters fused together. One is forced to do what the other does. On the other hand, if they are separated, each one follows its course. My will and yours are the two waters fused together, and whatever one does, the other must do as well. Therefore, I want you always in my will. So I abandoned all of myself in his will, but I felt great repugnance in me toward justice. And my sweet Jesus coming back told me, "If you knew how heavy it is for me to use justice, and how much I love the creature. The whole of creation is for me like the body to the soul, like the skin to the fruit. I am in continuous and immediate act with man, although created things hide me, just as the body hides the soul. However, if it wasn't for the soul, the body would have no life. In the same way, if I withdrew from created things, they would all remain without life. In all created things I visit man, I touch him, and I give him life. I am hidden in the fire, and I visit him with its heat. If I were not there, the fire would have no heat. It would be a painted fire and without life. But while I visit man in the fire, he does not recognize me, nor does he send me one greeting. I am in the water, and I visit him by quenching his thirst. If I were not there, the water would quench no one's thirst. It would be dead water. But while I visit him, he passes before me without bowing once to me. I am hidden in the food, and I visit man by giving him substance, strength, and taste. If I were not there, in taking food, man would remain on an empty stomach. Yet ungrateful while he lives on me, he turns his back to me. I am hidden in the sun, and I visit him with my light almost every instant. Yet, ungrateful, he repays me with continuous offenses. I visit him in all things, in the air that he breathes, in the flower that gives off its fragrance, in the refreshing breeze, in the striking thunder, in everything. My visits are innumerable. Do you see how much I love him? And you, being in my will, are together with me, visiting man and giving him life. Therefore do not be frightened if sometimes you concur in justice. May 12, 1927, Volume 21. Just as our Lord by forming redemption did more than if he had freed us from all chastisements, so it is for the one who must form the kingdom of the divine Fiat. A power prevents her from dying. How God calls souls to form the laws and to rule the world. I was feeling oppressed, not only because of the privation of my sweet Jesus, but because of the continuous threats of grave chastisements, of nearing wars and revolutions with infernal methods, such as to be horrifying. Oh God, what pain, to be forced by a supreme power to see these evils, the blindness of the leaders of nations who want the destruction of the peoples, and my impotence in being able to stand before divine justice with my pains, to make the peoples be spared so many evils. So I felt the weight of life, and I ardently longed for the celestial fatherland, since I could not arrest the course of so many evils with my pains. And my beloved Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, how do you think I would have done more if I had freed the peoples from the chastisements they deserved because of so many sins, or by having formed the redemption? The chastisements were temporary pains. The redemption was an eternal good that never ends. Had I freed them from chastisements, I would not have opened heaven for them, nor given them the right to glory. On the other hand, by forming the redemption, I opened heaven for them, and I placed them on the way to the celestial fatherland, giving them the lost glory. When one must do a greater good, he must content himself with putting the minor good aside. More so, since the minor was to serve the balance of justice, and my humanity could not nor did it want to oppose this divine balance. Furthermore, the chastisements were to serve as a call for creatures, as speaking voice, as sentries, in order to shake them from the sleep of sin, as a spur, in order to place them on the way, as light, in order to lead them. Therefore they were also means in order to make them receive the goods of redemption, and I did not want to destroy these helps. And this is why, in spite of my coming upon earth, the peoples were not completely exempted from the chastisements they deserved. Now, my daughter, you think you would have done more had you freed the peoples from the chastisements so necessary in these times, and in seeing that this is not granted to you, life becomes bothersome for you, and you would want to come to the celestial fatherland? Poor daughter, you are such a child in the knowledge of the true goods, great, incalculable, and never-ending, and of the goods that are little and finite. Is it not greater to form the kingdom of my divine will, in order to make it known, to prepare the way so as to let them enter into it, the light of its knowledges in order to lead them, to give happiness the original state of the creation back to creatures, to enrich them with all the goods that a divine will contains? Comparing the good produced if you had freed the peoples from all chastisements to the great good of the kingdom of the supreme Fiat, the first would be nothing compared to the second. So you find yourself in my same condition of having to content yourself with forming the kingdom of the divine will that is greater than anything, while as for the chastisements, you must content yourself with letting them follow their course in part. More so since I keep you on earth for the kingdom of my will. This is your special mission. But the terror I felt within me because of the grave evils that Jesus had made me see was so great that I would rather not be on this earth. And I thought to myself, it seems to me that a great adverse power moves death away from me and forces me to cross the exile. Many times I feel as though I am about to die, and it has been but a few months since I felt as if I were about to reach my celestial dwelling. But nothing, everything went up in smoke. This adverse power drives me back, and I remain in the miserable prison of my poor humanity. Who can this power be that harms me so much? Who is it that places himself across my happiness? Who prevents my step, my flight, barring my way and driving me back with such rude and cruel manners? But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, telling me, "My daughter, do not afflict yourself too much. You hurt yourself very much, and I suffer in seeing you suffer like this. Do you want to know who this great adverse power is? It is the whole of heaven that places itself across your steps, your flight, preventing you from coming into the celestial fatherland so longed for by you. But do you know why? Because they want to see in you completed the kingdom of my will. They themselves, all the celestial residents, want to be reintegrated into the honor and the glory that is missing in them, because my will was not complete in them while they were on earth. Therefore they want to see this will of mine in you, completed in you, in order to receive through you the complete glory of it. This is why, when they see that you are about to take flight, all the power of heaven objects to it, and vigorously opposes your steps. However, know that this power of heaven is not your enemy, but your friend. It loves you very much, and it does this for your good. Know, my daughter, that she who will form the kingdom of my will on earth will form the complete crown of their glory in heaven. And do you think it is trivial that they are expecting this complete glory of the supreme Fiat from a sister of theirs? So say together with me, Fiat, Fiat. I remained afflicted, but all immersed in the divine will. And my sweet Jesus added, "My daughter, when I call souls in a special and extraordinary way, I act like a king when he elects his ministers, and together with them he forms the laws, and dominates and rules the kingdom. So I do. I call these souls to participate in my regime, in my dominion. I form the laws that rule the whole world, and since I have called you in a special way to make you live in the royal palace of my will, my volition itself brings you my most intimate secrets, and shows you the grave evils, the wars, the infernal preparations that will destroy many cities. And your littleness, unable to bear the sight of these grave evils, justly wants to come to heaven. However, know that many times ministers dissuade the king from forming punishing laws, and if they do not obtain everything, they always obtain something. The same will be for you. If you do not obtain everything, as long as you remain on earth, you will obtain something. Therefore pluck up courage, and let the flight in my will be continuous." May 12th, 1929, Volume 26. How one who lives in the divine Fiat is the narrator of the divine works. The Ascension. The reason why Jesus did not leave the kingdom of the divine will upon earth. Continuing in my usual abandonment in the divine Fiat, I was following the acts of it in the creation. It seemed to me that by uniting myself to its acts, I would do now an act of light, now an act of immensity, now an act of power, and so on and so forth. But while I was doing this, my always lovable Jesus moved in my interior, told me, "My daughter, one who lives in my divine will and follows its acts is the narrator of all our works. So as you go around in the sun to repeat together with my will what I did in creating the sun, you act for us as the narrator of the story of its light. And the Supreme Being, in hearing all the story of the sun, what it encloses, the good it does, being repeated to it by you, feels all the glory of its light being given back to it. And as the light shines over all things, invests everything, fills the air, it hears your echo near and far, down below and in the height of the heavens, and whispering to our ear, you act for us as the narrator of the light, and glorify us so much as to give us a son of glory. Oh, how delighted we are on the part of the creature, because a sphere so beneficial for the whole earth was created by us, and how not to love one who lives in our divine Fiat. She gathers all our qualities and happinesses, spread in the whole creation, and now she acts for us as the narrator of the heavens, and tells us the story of their immensity, and gives us the glory of the entire heavens. Now she tells us the story of the sea, and she murmurs together with the waters, love and glory of all the sea to my Creator. Now she narrates to us the story of the flowery earth, and all the plants and flowers elevate their fragrance, and you give us the glory of all the earth. And now you act for us as the narrator of the story of the wind, now of the air, now of the little bird that sings, now of the lamb that bleats. In sum, she always has things to narrate to us among the many things that we have done in creation, in order to give us the love and the glory that we had in creating it. Oh, how sweet and pleasant it is to hear you act as the narrator of our works. We feel our love, our glory being doubled, more so since she who does the narration for us lives in our will, that instructing her makes her speak the loving secrets that are present in all created things. Having said this, he kept silent. Then, as though unable to contain the love of his divine heart, he added, My beloved daughter, you are my hope, the hope of the kingdom of my divine will upon earth. That hope that does not say doubt, but certainty, because its kingdom is already present in you. Your ways, your prerogatives, your narrations are all apartments for my divine Fiat. In you there are its foundations, its knowledges. Therefore I hope that its kingdom will be formed and will spread upon earth. After this I was thinking about when our Lord ascended into heaven, glorious and triumphant, with its humanity no longer humiliated, subject to pains, with the insignia of Adam decayed, but untouchable by any pain, with the insignia of the new innocent Adam, with all the most beautiful prerogatives of creation, clothed with light and immortal. But while I was thinking about this, my most sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, My daughter, my humanity redid within itself and over itself all the evils of decayed humanity, to the point of dying, in order to give to it the virtue of rising again from the death to which it was subject. This is the reason why I did not leave the kingdom of my divine will upon earth, because the humanity of innocent Adam was missing, glorious and immortal, in order to be able to impetrate it and to receive the great gift of my Fiat. Therefore it was necessary that my humanity first redo decayed humanity, and give to it all the remedies in order to raise it again, and then die and rise again with the qualities of innocent Adam, so as to be able to give to man what he lost. Not only this, but I wanted to ascend into heaven, and with my humanity as beautiful, clothed with light, just as it came out of our creative hands, so as to say to the Celestial Father, My Father, look at me, how my humanity is redone, how the kingdom of our will is safe in it. I am the head of all, and the one who prays you has all the right to ask and to give what I possess. My daughter, an innocent humanity, with all the qualities with which it came out of our creative hands, was needed in order to impetrate again the kingdom of our will into the midst of creatures. Up to that time it was missing, and I purchased it with my death, and I ascended into heaven in order to fulfill with my first task my second task of impetrating and giving the kingdom of my divine will upon earth. It is about 2,000 years that this humanity of mine has been praying, and our divine majesty, feeling the love of creation that we had in creating man overflow from itself again, or rather with greater intensity, and feeling itself being enraptured and charmed by the beauties of my humanity, has poured itself out again, and opening the heavens, it has made the rain of light of the many knowledges about my fiat rain down in torrents, so that like rain it may descend upon souls, and with its light it may vivify and heal the human will, and transforming it, it may cast the root of my will into the hearts, and may lay its kingdom upon earth. In order for my kingdom to come upon earth, first I had to make it known. I had to make known that it wants to come to reign. And I, as an elder brother of the human family, in order to give to it a purchase so great, am making all the arrangements in heaven before the divinity. Therefore, it was necessary that I ascend into heaven with my humanity glorified, in order to be able to purchase again the kingdom of my fiat for my brothers and children of mine. May 12, 1934, Volume 33, Extreme Need for Abandonment in the Divine Volition, Virtue of It. How we all go around God. Only the human will goes wandering and is the disturber of everything. My abandonment in the fiat is for me an extreme need of my poor heart, because it makes me feel its divine paternity and maternity, that with its arms of light it holds me clasped to its bosom, in order to repour itself into me as a most tender mother who loves her daughter with inseparable love, but so much so that she wants to generate her life in her daughter. It seems that it is a delirium, a divine passion of this Holy Mother, that renders her all eyes, all attention and solicitous, all heart, and in the continuous act of laboring in order to conceive, to give birth to, and to raise her life in her daughter, all abandoned in her arms. In fact, abandonment in the divine will facilitates the cares and renders the solicitudes of this celestial mother feasible, to form her life all of divine will in the creature. My beautiful mamma, oh please do not detach me from your bosom of light, so that your life can be felt in me, that continually painting me makes me know how much you love me, who you are, and how beautiful, lovable, and adorable you are. But while my mind was lost in the total abandonment of the divine volition, my sweet Jesus, repeating his brief little visit, told me, "My blessed daughter, however much more one understands about my volition, so much more one enjoys of its beauty and sanctity, and so much more one receives of its goods. And abandonment in it destroys all the obstacles, and it clasps the soul so tightly in its arms that without effort my fiat can regenerate its divine life in the creature. The true and full abandonment says with deeds, 'Do with me what you want. My life is yours, and I do not want to know anything about mine any more.' In fact, abandonment has the virtue of making the creature remain at the mercy of my divine will. This is why you must know that all things, and human nature itself, take from the eternal motion of God, in a way that everything goes around him. All creation, the breath, the heartbeat, the circulation of the blood, they remain under the empire of the eternal motion. And since everyone and everything have life from this motion, they are inseparable from God. And as they have life, so with one unanimous course they go around the Supreme Being. In fact, the human breath, heartbeat, motion, it is not in their power to breathe, to beat, to move themselves. They either want or they do not want. Being under the incessant motion of the eternal, they also feel the incessant act of the breath, of the heartbeat, of the motion. One can say they live together with God and with all the created things that go around him without ever stopping. Only the human will, having created it with the great gift of free will, so that he could freely tell us that he loved us, not because he was constrained as he is constrained the breath to breathe, the heart to beat, and to receive the motion of his Creator, but with wanted will, not forced, he could love us and be together with us in order to receive the operating life in our volition. It was the greatest honor and the greatest gift that we gave to the creature. And he, ungrateful, withdrew from our union and inseparability, and so from the union of everyone and everything, and therefore he became lost. He degrades himself, debilitates himself. He loses the unique strength, and in the whole creation, he is the only one who loses his course, his place of honor, his beauty, his glory, and goes wandering, moved from his place that he has in our will that calls for him, that yearns for him at his place of honor, because everything has a place, even the human breath and heartbeat. And since everyone and everything have a place, they never lose life and their incessant motion. No one feels poor, weak, but rich in the eternal motion of their Creator. Only the human will, because it does not want to be in the royal place of our divine volition, is the lost one and the poorest of all. And since it feels itself poor, it feels unhappy and is the disturber of the human family. Therefore, if you want to be rich, happy, never descend from your place of honor that is within our will, then you will have everything in your power, strength, light, and even my will itself. End of May 12th. Fiat.